What does it mean to really change? That's a question I like to think about on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Our sages have a lot to say about what it means for people to change. And one of the most interesting ones is a method that we probably haven't given a lot of thought to, but I think holds some deep wisdom. Rabbi Yitzchak says in the Talmud that one of the 4 ways that people can rip up the decree that has been decreed for them for next year, how they can change their future, is by changing their name, Shinui Hashem. Now, Rabbi Yitzchak gives an example of a biblical character whose name changed and she became a different person. Sarai wasn't able to have children. When she was married to Avram, they had no children. But God changed her name to Sarah. And as a result, she became a new person, somebody who was able to have children. Now, changing one's name seems like a very extreme way of thinking about one's life in a totally different vision. But I think there's something deep about what it means to change your name and how we may or may not hold on to our old selves. Or to put it another way, if you were going to change this Rosh Hashanah, this Yom Kippur, how much of your old self would you hold on to? And how much of it would you just totally let go? The Rambam has a take on this. He says, Umishaneh shemo, one who changes one's name, klomar, what am I really saying when I change my name? Ani acher ve'eni oto ish she'asa oto ma'aseh. I am someone totally different. I am not the person who did that deed. As Rabbi Soloveitchik said, commenting on the Rambam, this is the severing of one's psychic identity with one's former self. I'm not the same person. I'm totally different. That's what a name change signifies. But I think there's a less radical approach to changing one's name that we see in a different biblical character, and that's the character of Avram. Avram's name also changes. He goes from Avram to Avraham. But we see, unlike the change from Sarai to Sarah, Avram simply adds a letter to his name. His old name, Avram, had 4 Hebrew letters. His new name, Avraham, has 5 Hebrew letters, the addition of a hey being the new element. But all of the old Avram is in the new Avraham. This is embodied in a verse from the end of the Bible where they're running through the genealogy of the history of the Jewish people. And they make a side comment, Avram hu Avraham. But the rabbis read that as, Avram is the same as Avraham. There was something essential about Avram's righteousness that maintained even after his name changed. So when we think about change for ourselves, are we thinking about the model of the Rambam of Sarai? I'm no longer that person that I was. I'm a totally different person. The letter Yud in Sarai doesn't exist anymore. It's Sarah. I can now give birth before I couldn't. Or do we think about it in the way that Avram becomes Avraham? All of the old me is still there. I'm just a new person because of the ways in which I've grown and changed and added parts to myself. I think both of those are options as we think about change in this moment of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I want to end with one final midrash that I think is a fascinating view on what happened to that letter Yud in Sarai's name. Avram's name just became Avraham, so all the letters stayed the same. But what about that Yud from Sarai? Where did it go? So the midrash has 2 opinions. One opinion is the Yud of Sarai went underground and came back into existence generations later when Hosea became Yehoshua. Joshua, the prophet who takes over from Moshe, his name was originally Hosea, not Yehoshua. But he adds in that extra letter, that extra Yud. The Midrash sees that as something that Sarai gave to him. how much of our identity actually comes from people we've never met, people in our own ancestry who influence us so much and are even a part of our identity, even if we can't pick up on those ways explicitly. The other opinion in the Midrash of what happens to the Yud in Sarai, I think, is very suggestive. They say that actually the letter Yud, which is the value of 10 in the numerical accounting, actually split into two. It was 5 and 5, the letter Hey and the letter Hey. The Yud split into two. Half of it, the Hey, went to Sarah. She was Sarai with a Yud. She gets half of that letter in Sarah. And where did the other half go? Where did the other Hey go? It went to Avram, who became Avraham. That is to say, the change in Sarai to Sarah also affected the change from Avram to Avraham. Or to put it another way, Sarai lives on in both Sarah and Avraham. Sarah and Avraham become bound in a much more deep and explicit way by splitting that Yud and dividing it between the two of them. In what ways, when we change, do we take on some of the identity of the people whom we love and who we're building a life together with? So when we think about what does it mean to change this Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we can think about the model of changing one's name. What does it mean to change one's identity? Do you become a totally new person? Do you think about the ways in which you are the same person, you've just grown and added? How much of me comes from someone before me who I've never met? And how much of me is dictated by the life that I'm leading with the people that I love and I'm building my life together with? I'm wishing us all a happy and meaningful Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, one of deep and abiding change.